Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Agnes, for this beautiful prayer. Today, here we are, the first um, weekend of, or Saturday of February, right? Um, and I say this because it's no longer Happy New Year. Now it's old. All the good stuff that we promised ourselves better be in place now, right? February. So there's no such a thing of Happy New Year anymore. But it's good to be here. It's good to be with all of you. And Daniel will be talking about the impact of Spiritist teachings. We like to, I like to joke about it because he may not like that much, but these are the days that I'm so happy that we get him out of behind the camera, right? It's like, come on, Daniel, get out of behind the camera. He's always back there. But I say this not only to make fun of it. It's nice to have fun about these things as well. But because he's always stuck back there in working hard to make sure that everything's perfect, nothing is tilted, in terms of the screen or the sound is good and everything, because he has that touch of we have to make sure that it's working well, and that's a good thing because as we heard our dear friend Agnes saying, hopefully our brothers and sisters who will be watching this thing as well, this video through the web, will also be enlightened, right? So the perhaps we don't have a huge place physically, but the streaming of these videos for sure goes in every corner of the world. We do have a follower from, as you guys have seen, I know I'm taking a long time here, but as we have seen from Australia and others from all over the world as well. So it does touch the hearts of others. So on that note, Daniel, thank you. And thank you for sharing this beautiful topic with us today, the impact of Spiritist teachings. Daniel, it's on you. Get out of there.
Thank you, Lil. Wow, full house. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. As Lil has just mentioned, this is not my preferable place to be. I like to be at the back. But when the work is called to share the knowledge, so you need to be prepared, right? So when I was thinking about what we can reflect today, the first thing that came to my mind was let's go to the basis. Let's go to the beginning, why we are here, why we come to this place, what this place has to offer to us. So I thought, okay, let us go back to the beginning and discuss about Spiritism, about the Spiritist teachings. What is this teachings has to do with our lives, and how, by learning about the teaching that the Spirit has brought to us, can impact our life. So, but it's always important for us to understand how everything starts, right? Because we don't follow things that we don't know, right? We follow things that make sense, and also we have some return to our life. So the idea today is for us to dive in, do like a revisit. Most of you know the history of Spiritism, but every time we come here to talk about this teaching, we are talking for two audiences. One that is in the physical body, us, and the other that doesn't have the physical body, right? Is in the spiritual plane that are here with us, right? So that they are the one that inspire us, but sometimes we have those that is not so inspirational. Let's say this way, right? So the first question is, what is spiritism? Since we are talking about the spiritist teachings or the spirit's teachings, so is spiritism something that has ever always happened throughout humanity? The word spirit is not necessary. The phenomenon, yes. So when the movement of the turntable happens here in New York, upstate New York, with the Fox sister in the mid 1848, um, so this became a big boom here in the US, right? So everybody was doing science, as we call mediumship meetings today and became entertainment. So this traveled to Europe. So many of people used to get together to communicate with the spirit. The phenomenon of the turning tables became like a entertainment, right? People used to go to theaters just to see the phenomenon happen. But then one person, one educator called Hippolyte Leon Denivar Rivail decided to investigate the phenomenon, right? And we all have watched, at least us here, watched the movie Kardec that talk about the beginning of this investigation. So spiritism start with a investigation process. So someone that look at the phenomenon and ask the question, what is behind of these answers that is that time he doesn't know that was spirit was giving. There is the famous phrase that even was put in the movie is that when he saw the phenomenon happen, like when people ask question and the table knocks and make noise and then they put the letters together and it has the answer yes or no. So the first thing he he um he thought about, well, there is something there that is intelligent. Or I have to believe that a table has a brain, right? That was the famous conclusion that he had in that time. So he decided to investigate, go to those meetings with like, questions. And from that point, he spent almost 1 year doing those type of investigations. This is from 1855, when a friend of him invited him to go to those meetings, until like middle of 1856. So almost a year he was observing those and asked some questions. So the difference between what Kardec did and other people was doing is that he took that so serious that he decided to ask serious questions, not like trivial question like, okay, so who, especially for the singles, who I'm gonna marry, I'm gonna, make money, something like this, more material things. So he started to ask questions that was philosophical questions. And from that point, he started to compile those questions, right? So after 1 year, he was like, okay, I have a lot of material here with me. What should I do? Was then that a spirit, one of his mentor approached him, was the spirit of truth, said, well, now it's time for you to expose yourself. You need to put this together. You can't keep those information for yourself. That's why when he thought about, and this information that I'm going to bring here is in the introduction of the first book, the Spiritist book, where he described almost 100 pages, how was the process, the methodology that he used to put this book together. So the first thing is like that he came to his mind was, this teaching doesn't belong to him. That's very important, right? The teaching does not belong to Kardec. He was only the investigator or the research of those phenomena. So then he was put in that situation that, okay, so how do I present this teaching to the public? And that's when he think about what the whole information he has on hand, and he decided to put the Spiritist teachings or Spiritism. And in the introduction, he said, for new ideas, new words are necessary. And he mentioned to ensure the exactness of the expression. So Spiritism was created by Allan Kardec. It was a terminology created by Allan Kardec. So if today you read, I don't know, Bible, for example, and you see the word Spiritism there, was not a word that was introduced when the Bible was written. Because Kardec was the one that created this expression, Spiritism. And then he mentioned, so I just took a part of this, the introduction of the Spirit's book, where he described why he decided to name Spiritism. And he says, the word spiritual, spiritualist, and spiritualism always have a well-defined meaning. to give them a new one in order to apply them to the Spirit's doctrine would be to multiply the awareness, the already numerous causes of ambiguity. Let us think. He doesn't want it to create more one, religion or one philosophy that was pure like spiritualist, right? Strictly speaking, spiritualism is the opposite of materialism. And everyone who believes there is something within them that is more than matter are spiritualists, right? However, it does not necessarily follow that they must therefore believe in the existence of spirits or in the communications with the invisible world. So what we are trying to say is like this. Everybody that believes that there is something beyond the physical body, matter, are spiritualists. But not necessarily they believe in communication of spirit, in the existence of spirit, right? So in that way, all religions that believe that there is something that transcend the physical, the life in the physical body, are spiritualists, right? By the definition. So then he finalized by saying, therefore, instead of the word spiritual or spiritualism for the designating these latter beliefs, we have employed the word spiritist or spiritism. And spiritism. Spiritists, those that follow or study spiritism. So we can say that by being spiritualist doesn't mean that you are a spiritist. But spiritism is under the umbrella of spiritualism, right? So this is in the introduction of the Spiritist book. Is the first the second paragraph. So Kardec starts this doctrine, these teachings, by defining what it is, right? And pretty much he's just saying that he's a spiritualist philosophy, but there is element in this spiritualist philosophy that not all spiritualist people believe or follow, right? Clear, right? Then, in the book, What is Spiritism, that Kardec wrote later, is a booklet, not a booklet, but a small book compared to the Spiritist book. So there are more examples and more, Kardec go more deep in the explanation of what is the Spiritist teachings. There's great example over there. We have been studying this book here at the center before. We are planning to revisit the book because it's always good to go back to the basis so we cannot lose track, right? So there is this definition that Kardec puts over there. Spiritism is the science that deal with nature, the origin, and the destiny of spirit, as well as their relationship with the corporeal world. So the object of study here is what? For example, what is the object of study of biology, for example? Is what? Organic life, right? What's the object of study of astronomers, like stars, universe, is what? So what's the science that study that? Astronomy, right? So what is the object of study of neuroscience, for example? The brain, right? So what is the object of study of spiritism? Is the spirit. So when we talk about spiritism, we talk about the object of study is the spirit and the nature, the origin, and the relationship that the spirit has with the corporeal world, right? We can go a little bit further and define spiritism as the same time a science of observation and a philosophical doctrine. It is also a religion as of its moral consequences. So when we say science of observation, we are not talking about go to the lab and investigate, let me see what is the spirit in this bacteria, this virus, right? Let me mix this That's not the observation. So we already defined that the object of study of spiritism is the spirit. So in that case, what we observe is this interaction that the spirit has with the corporeal. And a good example of this is our mediumist meeting that we have here. Hey, Rob, how are you? So that is one of the things that we do. Also, we observe how the spirit influence our lives, right? So the other type of observation is how we change as we learn, as we put this in practice. So it's an observation, right? So all this is in the realm of spiritism. So we could say, like, summarize that spiritism has these three aspects: philosophy, religion, and science. The religion component is very important for us to understand because nobody will come to you and say, hey, you should not say that spiritism is not a religion. But you also can say that spiritism for you is not a religion, right? So there is no one that will, there is no like a hierarchy. There is no one that will come to you and say, hey, this is not, this is not what the Spiritist doctrine says, right? So you take your conclusion based in how you interpret the teaching. So the religion here is as we define here, has to do with our moral transformation. It's not with the 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 dogma or the tradition or ritual. It's not related to that. So the religion here is purely related to how you behave, how you um, deal with your relationship with others, pretty much like this. Science is the part of observation that you observe the phenomenon. So you can study that. Um, and the spiritism is based in study. Um, the phenomena is important, but it's not the main thing that, especially in the Spirit Center, we we put as a priority. We have our mediunist meeting, but the study is the foundation of these teachings because through the study will help us to know ourselves and um, do some proposal to change our behavior, right? To become a better person. So this idea, they didn't start with Kardec, right? Kardec was the editor in chief. He's pretty much got all this information through his research, put together, published the first book that is the Spirit's book, is the backbone of these teachings. The other one we're gonna see pretty soon came from the first book, right? Spirit's book is the backbone. Spirit book contain the Spiritist doctrine, contains Spiritism. The other ones, the medium's book, the gospel, the heaven, hell, and the Genesis, is a extension of the information we find in the Spirit's book. From these 5 books, we have now, I would say, thousands of other books that, that came about, that follow the pattern, extend, progress from the beginning, from the foundation. This is the foundation. So when we look at this teaching, we see that this idea are present throughout human history. Where, Daniel? So if we look at, like, for example, the ancient Greek, Egyptians, and Homer, the Romans, they, there is a lot of information that they believe that there is another dimensions, right? So if you study Socrates, if you study Plato, Aristotle, they always question the existence of a different dimension, right? Socrates, in particular, he used to say that he has an invisible friend, right? So he used to say that he has an invisible friend where that he used to talk with this invisible friend. Moses, for example, he talked to Jehovah, right? He has this straight communication with Jehovah, right? So he brought the Ten Commandments. He wrote a lot of those um, information, the 5 books, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books from the Bible, from the Old Testament, pretty much inspired by the Creator that he called Jehovah, right? So this is a example of this type of interaction with a reality that's not physical, right? Jesus, for example, when he in the transfiguration process, where he had that moment where he interacted with Moses and Elijah. So this is a spiritist phenomenon, spiritual phenomenon that it happens before Kardec starts to investigate about the manifestation of spirits. So here in the U.S., there is this gentleman, Andrew Jackson Davis. He is very interesting. There is documentary, there is books. He wrote 30 books about the spiritual realm. 30. And he is considered one of the forerunner of the new spiritualism here in America. So he lived the same time of the Fox sisters. Some spiritualists, they used to say that Andrew Jackson Davis was even more important than the Fox sisters. The Fox sister was the one that they were used, they are the channel for reveal the presence of spirit in a more ostensible way that became big here in the US, went to Europe, and Kardec was the one that decided to look at those information in and put in a more didactical and in a body of knowledge that we call Spiritism. The Fox sisters. In more recent Edgar case, if you have been in Virginia Beach, I've been there a couple times, there is an institute over there, an institute Edgar Cayce that has all the work from Edgar Cayce. He is known by, Paula, correct me, the sleep prophet, right? The sleep prophet, right? He used, what is that? Is yeah, sleeping prophet. He used to, he also was a very successful medium, somnambulist medium, and he brought a lot of information, rating, and also performs a lot of healing as well, right? So this is to show that this idea, when we talk about the information brought by the spirit during the mid of 19th century, was not new. This information exists throughout humanity. What Kardec did is just compile in a way that become more, how to say, easy to follow these teachings, right? And there is many more. Okay, now let's go back to the how Kardec put this work together. So we already mentioned that the Spirit's book was published in April 18, 1857. So it was 1 year after he realized much how much material he had in his hand. So the Spirit of Truth told him, look, now you need to put this together in a way and you need to expose himself. He was not Allan Kardec in that time. His name was Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail. He was an educator. His main Kardec was 50 years old when he, started to investigate this phenomenon. His main object in life was education. He wanted to change, and he published book related to the educational system in Paris, right? Until he came across those phenomena, and he decided to put, his time on investigate this phenomenon. So the Spirit's book is the backbone, was published, has 1,019 questions. Think about a question over there in your mind. Okay, you don't need to tell me. There is a question that Kardec asked in the book, and you're gonna see the answer. Of course, we need to think this way. All the answer that is in the book was given by a spirit that is more evolved than us, right? You may ask, how can I trust this? Maybe the spirit that gave the answer was a pseudo, not a pseudo spirit, something like that, right? It was a spirit that, is just like true. That's not true what they say. So the idea here is like, let's think about school, right? So when we go to school, we have teachers that are more advanced than us in terms of intellectual knowledge, right? So if you think about the spirit that brought this, they are not perfect. They are not perfect, like, but they are a spirit that has more advanced in moral and intellectual. Or they acquire those when they are still living here. That's why in the introduction you have the name of the group of spirits that helping to bring the answers from St. Augustine, Fenelon, some astronomers. Here in the US, we have Benjamin Franklin, who was one of the contributors, some of those apostles. So we have spirit that has demonstrated and has acquired in terms of morality a level that we are still struggling. Just for us to picture that, right? So inside of the spirit book is organized in a way that is divided in four parts. The first part, Kardec put the first cause, right? The first cause of the universe, right? And there we're gonna study about what is God, the attribute of God, the creation, the second book. And so this first book, the first cause, is further developed in a Genesis. So the Genesis is a more uh, depth information about the first part of the Spirit's book. The second part talk about the Spirit world and the world of Spirit. And this was further developed in the Medium's book. The third part is the moral laws that was further developed in the Gospel according to Spiritism that contain pretty much the teachings from Jesus, from the Gospel. And the fourth part talks about hopes and consolation, and we can see this in the heaven and hell, right? I know that the title sometimes can scare people, heaven, hell, what is that? But this book, we just studied this book like 5 years ago, right, Leo? And it's awesome because here we can have an idea what happened after we cross to the other side. Good and not so good. I'm not gonna say bad. I'm just say good, not so good, health, not so health, right? Based on how we have lived our life. Just to give an idea. So of course, this is just like a review about how the spiritual teaching was put together. Now, one of the things that is important in Spiritism is this that we call the universal control of the Spiritist principle. What is this, Daniel? So it's like Spiritism does not come and say, I have the truth. The truth is based in the universal control of the teachings of the Spirit. So can you be more specific, Daniel? Yes. Let's see how it is. So when Kardec put this together, one thing that he observed in the methodology that he used is like, okay, if he go to a house and meet with certain media and do the meetings, get some answer. So he submit the same question to different groups of mediums. He collect the answer, and then he adopt those that was pretty much similar, right? So this teaching, the universal control of the spiritual teaching, is spread from pole to pole. So he sent a lot of letters here to the US, in Europe, and when he received those letters with the same question, this is the methodology that he used, he compiled those that were similar. So that was in a way to make sure that the spirit that was behind those answers, they are in the same level, right? It's like if you in a school system, you're not gonna if you ask a question for a class that has a student that is very devoted, if you give a test, the expectation is that they do well in that test, right? So we can see that those students are in the same level of intellectual development. So also, this teaching are brought through many different mediums I just mentioned. It does not depend of one person, only one person. So it's a group of spirit that is bringing this information. This is very important because for If we study Jesus' life, one of the things that he said before he leave, for sure, the environment, the earthly environment, is that he will go, but he will send a promised consoler. He never said, but he said like this: the promised consoler is gonna stay forever. And in his, and I'm paraphrasing here, in his um, um, in his, the way he said this to the disciples, to the followers, is that we're gonna recognize this promised consoler because they're gonna be everywhere at the same time. So when we look at what Jesus said, and by studying these teachings that the Spirit has brought to us, and we spirituals believe that there is one communication, the gospel, that the Spirit didn't reveal his name or her name, but just said the Spirit of truth. We believe that that message maybe is a message from our Master Jesus, right? But it's not important to know who is the message from. It's the content of that message, how much that message can impact our life and can help us to become better person. There is no nationality. So um, anyone can, can claim themselves spiritists without, oh, I'm spiritist from Brazil, I'm spiritist from the US. No, there is no spiritist from Brazil. There is only spiritism. Anywhere that you adopt this teaching, we we can claim, you can call yourself spiritist. It does not, okay, that's very important. It does not stem from any known religion. So when you look for the spiritism, we're gonna see that a lot of information we can see in other religion, a little bit here, a little bit there, but not condensed in a single place as we have in the Spirit's teachings. No social class, anyone is invited to study, to learn, to participate. And this teaching has been given gradually by enlightened spirits. One of the things that Kardec was, that we find in especially in the Genesis, the last chapter of the Genesis, he mentioned about that spiritism is progressive. That, although we have the foundation, the codification, so this teaching will evolve, right? And we know that after this teaching was brought to Brazil, and with the work of Francisco Cândido Xavier, we have more like hundreds of books that extend the information. We have the collection of André Luiz, we have a manual collection, we have a lot of information that talk about, life after life and the interaction and what happens. So corroborating with what with Kardec has put together on the codification. Now, the main principle of Spiritism, we have several, but the main one is 5, that is the foundation of this principle. The first one is the existence of God. We cannot even start a conversation in Spiritism if you don't believe that there is a supreme intelligence, first cause of all things, right? And that's the first question of the Spirit's book. This doctrine starts with the first question: what is God? Not who is, what is, right? And the answer is God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. It's not a person, it's not it, she, he. It's something that is beyond our comprehension. And if the universe is a creation of God, God cannot be inside of the universe. He's outside of the universe, right? It's like the paint. If I paint, a beautiful landscape, I'm the painter, so I'm not the paint, right? So that's the analogy. Second, the immortality of the soul. We are talking here about the existence of the spirit. There is a spiritual intelligence in the creation. There is the creation that has 2 main elements. spiritual, intelligence principle, material principle. For the intelligence principle evolved to different kingdom until human kingdom, angelical kingdom, perfect spirit, right? Material principle evolve um, by transformation. We will end up in solid, visible matter, right? So we have been studying this for those that has been studied on Thursday. We have been studying Genesis, so we have been going through those information about the elements of the universe. God is outside of that, right? We cannot put God inside of the universe. Although we may, in a philosophical way, we can say that the universe is the breath of God, that that God is everywhere, right? We can say that because our limitation to understand about the Creator is very small. We don't know. So, and let us just exercise our faith and believe that there is a supreme intelligence that are behind of all this that we see it, right? We are co-creator, but there is a supreme creator, a supreme intelligence that is God. So this word reincarnation was not created by Spiritism. Kardec didn't create reincarnation. Reincarnation is a belief that has been, you know, exist for, um, thousands of years, right? So, but Spiritism adopted that. That's the beauty of this teaching, is that we didn't, we brought to the Spiritist doctrine elements that really will help to understand the three questions that we ask. Who am I? Where I come from? And where are we going to go? That's the philosophical question. By read this, we have an idea what would be, what is ahead, where are we going to go, right? So reincarnation is an element that we cannot, is an element of this equation that we cannot take it out. If you take it out, reincarnation, the plurality of the existence, then God is not going to be the supreme intelligence. So if you want a God to be good, the attribute of God, good, justice, love, so we cannot take it out reincarnation from the equation, because when we look at the, we as human beings in different classes, a different level of aptitude, we may blame the creator, right? That the creator didn't create things that's good and things that's bad, and that doesn't go well with the attribute of God. So we need to incorporate reincarnation, and Kardec incorporate that as one of the principles, the main principle of Spiritism, the multitude of the inhabited planet. Very important, because for us, the universe reflect what Jesus said. In my Father kingdom, there are many mansions. So when we talk about the universe and the different galaxies and places, those are planets that the spirit needs to continue the process of evolution. So once we graduate from the planet Earth, I don't know what the next planet in the, but I mean, could be here in our solar system, could be another solar system, another galaxy. So we don't know, but let's do the best that we can in this school here, because our school now is the planet Earth, right? So the same thing that happened in our school system. So once we finish a grade, we go to the next one. Once we finish that school, we move to another school, right? To college, to university. So that's pretty much the universe is about, is for us to continue our process of evolution. In Spiritism, evolution means the two wings of progress, intellectual and moral, okay? The fifth one is the communicability of the spirits. Pretty much we are talking about mediumship. So this is one of the fifth principle. We have other principles in Spiritism. We can add some other principles here. For example, free will, forgetfulness of the past. Like, we all come, if we if we have reincarnation, the next question that we may ask is like, oh, if I have a previous life, who am I in the previous life, right? So that's why we have the mechanism of forgetfulness of the past. And that was very well described in the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism. Okay, now I would like to ask a question. We have 10 minutes to go. The question is, how can Spiritism impact your life? Um, Leo, do you have the mic? So Leo has the mic over there. If you wanted to share, like, no more than 1 minute, just like in a very short sentence, if you wanted to share anything about, especially for those that has been here for many years, those that has been studying spiritism, but feel free. You wanna say something, Wendell, please?
Yes, I think Spiritist teachings can help us to be more consolated um,
Mm,
through the issues of life offers. So I
yeah.
think we we don't get desperate. I mean, we understand that there is some reason for us to be facing that issue. So
Oh, very
I
good
think
one.
I've learned that through Spiritism.
So spiritism, I'm gonna try to put it another way. You're saying that spiritism, we may be afraid, but we don't panic, right? Right? We may be afraid. I'm afraid something is gonna happen. Life is gonna approach, or this thing is, but you don't panic, right? So that's the slight difference between, when we know. Leo, you wanna say something? It's now or never. Yeah, 1 minute.
Anyone
Less than
else?
1 minute.
I would say responsibility, Daniel.
Responsibility. Wow. Individual responsibility, right? Individual responsibility, right? Especially, yeah. Collective.
I agree with what's the part of you.
Paula, close to.
Can you? Oh, I know. I always need coaching.
Yeah.
I think there's something this is going to do to me. Um, the three W's. Why am I here? Where did I come from? Where am I going? To me, that's a key. And you talked about that. That I have a safety surrounding me. I have a groundedness. I can come up with some rationale when stuff happens. And the other plus is being in this group that really loves discussing and going deeper.
Very good. Thank you, Paula. For those that are online, please type your comment. You have one over there? Okay. If you're online over there watching us, please type, your answer or comment. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it pretty much adding to what everybody says. I agree entirely, and to me personally, is acceptance. So like the
Acceptance.
responsibility, of course, but acceptance with like the struggles and the hardships. It's almost
The
like
self-consolation,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's it. We're here for this. No.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Then I think well, for sure, have one from our dear friend. Try to read here, Carl. He says, I'm just learning, but grateful for its inclusion. I am a Quaker, but the teachings have helped me see the world in greater love, a part of a continuity.
Wow. Thank you so much. If you can share with us from where you are watching us, we appreciate that.
He said earlier, so thank you for that. We're going to share at the end, but he's from Chicago, actually.
Chicago.
That's what he said, yes.
Hello, Chicago. Yes, yeah, as you mentioned, like Spiritism has a lot of elements from all the other religion that we already have in humanity and the other philosophy. So the difference is that was condensed in a way that we call the spirit codification. And for example, when we talk about the Bible, so is this talk about Christianity? Yes, but when it comes to Christianity, Kardec was very insightful, I would say. He didn't waste time with the controversy of Christianity. So he doesn't want to know if Mary was virgin, if Jesus has many brothers or not. He wanted to extract the essence of Jesus' teachings, the moral teachings. So when we read this book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, that talk pretty much about uh, the moral part of Spiritism, the guiding model is Jesus. and his example. So talk about the parables, about consolation, about the healings, but always looking the human being um, as a intelligence, a part of the creation, but not go to what we say we human beings has created or deviate with the teachings that he left, right? Because Jesus didn't write didn't write anything, right? So we are the one that took the teaching. The gospel came about like 200 to 300 years after him, right? The four gospel, like the Mark, Luke, John, and what's the other one? Matthew. Yeah. Leo.
Daniel, one more from Philip. I hope I'm pronounced this correctly. Gillett. He says the feeling of connection with all those living and dead can be therapeutically comforting.
Very, very important. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good reminder because when we lose loved one, is a pain that we cannot even measure, right? If you lose your son or your husband, someone that you really love, it's very difficult to find consolation, like intellectual consolation, right? But a simple letter, a simple message in a medium's meeting, or for example, if you see what happened in Brazil with Chico Xavier, the amount of letters that mothers received from their deceased sons and daughter, how consoling. You know, you have even a movie about that, right? It's a pity that the movie is not in English, it's in Portuguese. But when you watch that movie, we cannot stop crying, even if because each one of us has this experience, right? To lose a loved one, and this teaching bring a tremendous consolation that area. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. Okay,
One more from Rob,
one more.
perhaps.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I just wanted to share the impact. Was thinking about basically organized infinity, and that's sort of the universal message of Spiritism, I believe, and sort of the feeling that it's not necessarily, what we call home, not necessarily our bodies or our residence or our nation or planet even, this uh, realization that the universe is our home and there's a supreme intelligence, as we shared, a spiritual intelligence.
Wow.
And so just being open up to that reality is very
Consoling.
consoling. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
great. Good reminder. Yes. You know, you said something very interesting that, the universe has our home. That's very, very interesting. I think that's is something that we need to incorporate in our life, like especially when we feel sad, depressed, right? That, you know, we are not alone. We are not alone. Maybe we have a lonely life, but we need to understand that there is loved beings, spirits that is always close to us, right? We just need to open our mind to connect with them. Thank you for sharing your, how spirits can impact your life. So now, just summarize how spirits impact our lives. I put some bullet point here based on what we have studied. It helps us to understand our true nature, that we are spirit living in a physical body, temporary. That, even when we lose a loved one, it's just the body that will die, we decompose, we continue living. So, and this true nature, by, has just one life. It's like we have just one life, and we have a life in the body. Is one life that has different, I would say, internship, right? So we do internship in the physical body, you come back home. Internship in the physical body, come back home. Internship as a woman, come back home. Internship as a man, come back home, right? We experience internship as a rich person, home. As a poor, go back home. So in this process of multiple existence, we will evolve. So that's the process. That's why when we mention about reincarnation, is a piece of this equation, the divine equation, that if we take it out, we have to admit that God is not just, right? Like, I mean, think logically. Why I'm suffering? Why I'm this way? Why I'm short, Leo? Why you so tall, right? So what is God when He created us, right? Why, we ask all this. So that would not make sense if you remove reincarnation from this equation. But as a spiritist, we respect other people's belief. If there are people that doesn't believe, that's fine. We are brother and sister at the end of the day. Period. We have the same, creator. So we should not, as a spiritist, we should not argue in a way that will try to prove who has the truth. Everybody has a piece of the truth, right? So I think that's the approach that spiritualists teach us regard to we as a human beings. It teaches the origin of your suffering and inequality. There is a chapter in this book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 5, talks about the present and past of our suffering. Beautiful chapter. It's the longest chapter of this book, right? For those that has been studied the Gospel According to Spirit. So if you look something that the cause you cannot find in this present reincarnation, most likely come from the previous one, right? And here I wanted to just quote, forgot your name, Agnes, when she said about acceptance. That's very important. We need to accept who we are, our limitations, our positive thing in our life, but also things that we still struggling. We need to accept, but never stay stuck on that acceptance. Always be proactive to become better. Okay, so it's bring the certainty that we are not lost in the universe. Just what Rob just shared with us. So the universe is our home. Do you get lost in your home? Unless you have a big, huge mansion with like 300 bedroom, bathroom, But the fact, and thank you for bringing that example, because the fact to bring the universe as our home give that sense of like, be protected. Okay, although I'm suffering, but guess what? I have a home, right? When we do our prayer, what we do, we say, thank you for the home, for this home. Thank you for my family, for the food that we have on the table. So if you call the universe home, change totally our perspective about the universe, right? It's confirm our immortality. Only matter decays, right? This is gonna decay. This body is gonna decay. It's gonna die. Everything changes, right? Not the spirit. We are moving toward a happy and perfect world. So when this is gonna happen, when God knows, depends of us. One of the things that this is a personal thing, caught my attention when I started to study spiritualism 25 years ago, was that for the first time, the responsibility was put on us. I don't need to go with all the respect. Let me make a point. With all the respect, I don't need to go to someone to be the middleman, right? Or the middle woman or the middle person between, myself and the creator. And also, I learned that if you made a mistake, there is the law of action and reaction. You need to face the consequence. No matter how many prayers you're gonna do, and no matter how many, promise you're gonna do, nobody's gonna take the consequence from you. You have to face it. So that is something that spiritualism always does not sugarcoating, right? The straight to the point. That is the law of cause and effect is a universal law. It is here in the planet Earth, is the same in the other planets. It's a physical law, but also is a moral law. Finally, the last one, this is in the Spirit's book. Now, so the end of our conversation tonight is about how this teaching can influence in the progress, how Spiritist influence on progress. So this is a question that Kardec asked, and I'm going to put the answer here. He says, not the Kardec. Kardec asked the question, the enlightened spirit answered. I put like 3 bullet points for us to go to the answer. Spiritists can contribute to progress by destroying materialism and thus make human beings understand where the true interest lies. So we highlight destroying materialism. It's not like the word destroy. It's that pretty much call our attention that matter is not the end goal. Simple as that. Matter is not the end goal. Matter is the means that we utilize to progress spiritually speaking, right? So for those that put matter, the material things, as an end goal, as the most important of our life, so we can get stuck. Our suffering can be greater because if we become attached to something that will be destroyed, we are pretty much attach ourselves to fail, right? Because, even the other day I was talking to a friend of mine about cars, right? A brand new car is they smell, doesn't make any noise. But from the day you buy that car and leave the dealership, the car starts to decay, right? Literally. The day we are born, we already count the days that our body will not gonna sustain the vital principle, right? It can eliminate doubts so that people will understand more clearly that they can ensure the happiness of their future by their action in the present. So in another way, so law of cause and effect. Whatever we do today, if it is a good thing, will have a good impact in the future. If it is not so good, if it is not according to God's law, to the divine laws, we're gonna be asked to redress that. Like is the GPS, right? If you miss the exit in the highway, the GPS said recalculating. So we need to go back to that point that we to repair, yes. By destroying so also the spiritism teaches this we influence the progress by destroying the prejudice of religion, social classes and races. It's teaching humanity the great lessons of solidarity that will one day unite them as brothers and sisters, united as human beings, right? So pretty much this is just to summarize how spiritism can impact our lives, right? For those that has not studied those, especially those 5 books of the codification, those books are available online. It's free. There is PDF in our website. You can download. You can buy the books in Amazon. So we have great numbers of books nowadays in English. So we have a lot of resource that you can take advantage of that and learn more about spiritualism. To finalize, I would say that the major objective of spiritism is to help humankind improve their moral and intellectual progression. So no matter what is happening in your life right now, will pass. This shall pass, right? Because whatever happened in the material environment has a deadline. What does not have a deadline is our end goal to perfection. So we are in this journey to perfection, to become a, say, pure spirit, if we can say. It's so difficult to talk about pure spirit if we are not pure. How can we talk about something that we don't know, right? It's like go to the middle of the Amazon forest and show a iPhone to someone that never left that place and ask, what is this? The person's gonna look at it, gonna throw away, because they don't know what it is. They even gonna run away because they don't know if it is harmful or not, right? So this is the message. I will stop here for any comment or question. about this teaching. If I don't have the answer, no worries. We have tons of books here that you can read. I'm pretty sure you're gonna find the answer in the codification here, right? Leo, any comment, question?
Yeah, we have some comments here. Do you want to put on full
Yeah.
screen there so I can share?
Yeah, I can do it. Let me see. Ooh.
If anyone has any comments here that would like to share or whatnot, please
You
let
can
us
see
know.
me like infinite times, Leo, over there.
I know. I'll
You just select yeah, no,
no,
the
not that one.
no, the one that is just me. Yes, perfect.
All right. See,
Yeah.
see, that's what happens when you're not back here. So just some showing some hellos from our dear friend Carl that I mentioned earlier from
Chicago.
and yep, Marisa Zamelo also saying hello.
Hey, Marisa.
And Kirsten also saying wonderful talk, always great to be reminded of these ideas. And I'll start with her. She's the question that we have here thus far. And she asks, how can we remind ourselves daily about how much Spiritism can truly help our lives?
There's two ways. Put in practice what we studied, or life will remind us. You know? So it's very common. People, when people give testimonial about how they become spiritists, I would say like 90% would say, oh, I get to know spirituals because I was going through a very difficult time in my life, tremendous suffering, pain. So someone told me to go to a spirit center. This is one way that we are reminded about our true nature and how we can use this teaching to help ourselves. The other way is like when we study and don't put in practice, then life reminds us. Simple as that. Go ahead, Leo.
Thus far, that's what we have online. Anyone here would like to?
Wendell, I'm gonna call you to be here one day, man. You ask a lot of questions.
I'm sorry to be so talkative today.
No,
So
that's okay, man.
no, it's more a thought than a question.
Yeah.
So you went talking about perfection. So it reminded me about a question I asked last week
Mhm.
about how to be motivated to try to reach Jesus' models of perfections. So as we are so far of his teaching. So I was thinking that Spiritism says that all spirits are created in exactly the same way.
Mhm.
So was Jesus created
Yeah.
as we were. So he didn't have any privilege when he was created by God. So I was thinking that that's a great teaching for us to be motivated because he had the same way of evolution that we are having. So we will evolve as he did someday at some point. It may take a while. It may take so much
Mhm.
time, but if you try, we can get there. So
Yes,
I think
that's a
that's
good
something that
reminder.
Spiritism teaches.
And that's go toward one of the principles that I didn't mention that called free will. So since we are created like simple and ignorant, right? And without, when we say simple and ignorant, without knowledge, without experience, right? And then by go to, the multiple existence, we expose ourselves to different situations, and then we have what? The power to choose. We call this free will. The choice that we make, will lead you to speed up your evolution or to delay a little bit. But I want to say something about your comment is that it is a process. Is nature doesn't jump, right? We are in the winter now. We're not gonna see when the winter becomes spring, right? Because the change is so gradually that we don't. That's we are part of nature because we are nature in the sense that when we talk about the divine laws or natural laws, we are embedded in nature. So this change, even like the moral change, the spiritual change, will happen so gradually that we even don't observe. Like few people in history gave like a big jump in their evolution. Like when we talk about Paul of Tarsus, for example, Mary of Magdalene. But those spirits they already have inside of them, they are in their last I would say, trial, life trial, right? And then they gave that jump that we become like, wow, what a evolution in one lifetime. But we don't know how was the life of Paul before he became life of soul that became Paul, but we don't know how was the previous reincarnation of that spirit, right? We say, and Kardec asked, question 625, what's the most perfect um, spirit that has been lived on us, that God has sent to us? And the answer was Jesus, right? And when we see Jesus, we tell that we name that Jesus is the most perfect. But when we talking about if Jesus was a pure spirit, we say that, right? We say that Jesus is spirit because Jesus never told us that he's spirit. He never told that was perfect. He came to deliver a message to us. We don't know. Maybe when we read the Spirit's doctrine, we see that there is other Christ in the universe, right? That when he talk about his kingdom, if he has a kingdom, there is other Christ that has kingdoms as well, right? I don't know his kingdom is the solar system. We don't know. Is the Milky Way? Is, so there is a lot of question. And the other question is like, let's talk about graduation, right? Do we stop to think, okay, did Jesus graduated here to become pure? Or he came already pure? So we learn in spirituals that he was already a pure spirit when he came to build our planet. He built our planet, helped to build our planet. He's the governor of the planet Earth, not of the solar system. If we read the Spirit's book, we see that the solar system has other more evolved spirit that's ahead of Christ, and so on, right? So this is like, if you wanted to learn more, come to our study group so we can discuss about that. Yeah, but thank you for the reminder about, our model, guiding model is Jesus. If he was able to achieve that level, we also can. And he said, if you follow my teaching, you can do what I do and much more, right? Something like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. That was an excellent summary. And to assist Kirsten or myself in daily reflection, you could take a couple slides and create a mini poster. What I just wanted to comment on was you were talking about Edgar Casey, which would involve a trip to Virginia Beach, Virginia. I also, since I like to travel, want to suggest Casadega in Florida and Lilydale in New York State, because they're both centers of spiritualism, which is as close as you're going to get to spiritism.
Yeah.
And the difference from what Tom Kratzley, I believe, taught us from Lilydale is that not all spiritualists believe in reincarnation, and there may be something with communication with spirits.
Thank you for the comment, Paula. Yes, I've been in Lilydale twice, and it's a wonderful place to go. Yeah. Any other question, comment?
A quick question, Daniel, in practical ways, if you can, please, because I'll try to be brief. But with the idea of responsibility, with the idea of consequences, right? Action and reaction, and the as you mentioned as well, that whatever action we will have to bear the consequences. And I'm quite sure that Spiritism does not. It's not, bringing this to us in a punishing way. But many of us, and I will, including myself, have thought before of, how difficult it is, right, for us to face ourselves, right? When we think about that, perhaps the reason I'm here today is because there was a cause, right? A group of causes. And obviously, what's going to happen to us tomorrow, it is a consequence of all of this together. So, what would you say in terms of how to live a more harmonious life, as Agnes actually mentioned as well, to be in this harmony where we face ourselves, we face these difficulties of the past, the present, to build a better future with Spiritism?
Thank you, Leo, for the question. The how do you say? Recept, like the receipt. How do you say receipt in English? Recipe, the recipe's not mine. The recipe is not mine. It's from Saint Augustine, right? I think one of the spirit that helped to put this codification. Saint Augustine was the coordinator of the Spirit's book. His last question, the answer is a long answer that was given by him. And one of the things that he invites us to do is like do this self-analysis, like, before go to bed, we need to look at how our day was and what we have done and make this evaluation. The evolution is individual, but we need one another to evolve. We only evolved in society. If you wanted to go by an island and cultivate a spiritual thing, become more spiritual, elevate, you're going to be perfect very fast. The next day, you are perfect spirit because there is nobody to interact. So you cannot check, if you're virtual because it's just you on the island, right? So this evolution is individual, but we need to be in contact with others, especially others that are different than us, so they can test us, our virtue, or help us to build virtues, right? So self-evaluation, self-discovery is the key. So Joana de Angel has invited us to turn our mind in, right? The inner journey. There is a CD, there is a book about that. So that's the only way. We need to know ourselves, right? So we may say, "Oh, yeah, I will never do that." We don't know if we're gonna be put in a situation that, is asked for us to behave and to put in practice what we have studied. We may fail badly. We may fail badly, right? Because we say, "Oh, okay, we come here, talk here, and bring all this beautiful teaching," but the time of the test is the day-to-day in our society. It's the relationship with our boss, our colleague at work, family members, driving, especially in driving, right? So it's this time that we need to go through, and then before go to bed, and then we do evaluation. That's the practical way, Leo, that comes to my mind. So we should not also push too much in ourselves, so we cannot feel like live a life of guilt, of fear. We are not here for that. If you feel too guilty or too fearful, then it's going to be a problem for us to exercise and to build virtues, because we're going to put ourselves, who am I? I'm little, I cannot do this because I commit that mistake. You are a son of God. We are daughter of God. So that's fine. You made a wrong turn. Let's go back. Recalculating, right? The GPS, recalculate. Let's go back and get back to track. And for this teaching help us, especially the series of Joana de Angeli, the psychological series, help us to face our shadows, our dark place, and continue, not stagnate, right? Oh, I can see everybody here. I guess, Leo, we are done, right? One more comment, Rob, please. Yeah. Oh, you're done. You're done. So for those that are online, thank you so much for following us and share the video. And forgive my accent, strong, heavy accent, but my wife said that's beautiful. So for that, I feel so. Doesn't matter whatever you think about my accent, about my pronunciation, it is your opinion and I respect, right? So thank you so much. Thank everyone. I guess right now we're gonna stop the live stream. We're gonna go to our passes. Thank everyone. I invite you to continue study this